All right, here we go. This is going to be a good one.
I feel like you got to have a different line.
Actually, I do say that all the time. My apologies. This is going to be a great one. How about that? A fun one.
There we go. Yeah, I like that.
This one's going to be
a great one.
Lighthearted.
Yes.
How about that? And this was your idea, but did you get it from comments?
I
somewhere?
did. Yeah, this was kind of an amended YouTube comment. There was a question in there about, hey, could you highlight some of your favorite workouts? And I thought, man, what a fun little way to riff on some memories from the past. And maybe we can talk a little bit about some ideas that are spawned from these workouts and why they're so cool. You know, I think there's some educational nuggets in there, Pat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what you just said there turned a potentially short episode into a long one. Okay, here we go. I'm good with that. We can get down some rabbit holes. And we when we were texting leading up to this as to what any borders or parameters were going to be, it's like, should it be any workout that you want? Should it be 2 or 3? Should it be benchmarks? And we're kind of like, anything goes. Whatever you want, whatever's your favorite, your favorite. So
let's put a little bit of programming anarchy out there.
Yeah, so I have no idea what you've chosen. You have no idea what I've chosen. We might have some overlap, we might not. My one preamble before we start is, I'm such a programming nerd, right? That I don't know if I can say these are my top 3 favorite of all time. I could make a list of 25, but I will tell you, I really like these 3, but I have a hard time saying my top 3, but I love these, and I'll tell you why I love them when we talk about them, and then I have like a list of another like 7 honorable mentions because it just pained me.
I feel the same way, and as a music nerd, in addition to being a CrossFit nerd, I feel the same way about music. It's, there are many best songs ever. Mm-hmm. It's just the way it is. So same thing with working out. Now, here's the question. Did you choose all workouts that you created? Is this just going to be a Pat Sherwood highlight? You're like, everyone is my own. I'm just kidding. I'm giving you a hard time.
I specifically, let me scroll through the list before I answer that. I specifically chose nothing that I've created.
Okay. I actually do have one that I created.
Because I didn't want to be biased. I didn't want to be biased with it.
One of my honorable mentions was one that I had a strong hand in. Okay. We'll talk about that when we get there.
All right. I mean, I could give you a whole other list of the ones I like that I did, but we're not going to. But this is just, some of the classics. So why don't you start and then, tell me what you got and why you like it.
I'll kick it off. My number 1 is Linda, the 3 bars of death. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, all the way down to 1. You got your deadlift, you got your clean, and you got your bench press. Line them up and knock them down. This was one of the first CrossFit workouts that I ever did from start to finish. I was doing personal training at the time at a Bally Total Fitness. I had ridden my motorcycle from San Francisco, where I lived and trained, across the Bay Bridge into a little town called Walnut Creek, where I was doing a stretching seminar because I had to do, some CEUs or whatever to keep my training credential that I had at the time. The stretching class was a total waste of time, wasted my day. But I knew the cherry on top at the end was I had planned to do this workout. And so I sat through this terrible workshop, learned nothing, wasn't really excited about it, but I knew that I was gonna line this workout up and I was really excited to do it. And I did, it was a blast. I thought I felt pretty good, until I got on my motorcycle to try to ride back to my house. Right. And I had to have a little bit of a come to Jesus moment where I was sitting on the bike saying, you know what? I don't think I'm in a good position to do this right now. So I got off my bike, had to walk down the street to a little cafe, have a sandwich, think about my life for a little bit, come back 45 minutes later and ride home. So
the mark of a great workout.
That's right. Great memory associated with that. And one of the first real grinder CrossFit workouts that I did.
It is a grinder. I mean, you got to have both a dead and a clean in the same workout. Oh, and you need a little bit of room and you need some barbells.
Yeah, and at that time, it was early days. The refinement on the clean particularly was not exactly super polished, we'll put it that way. So
yes.
Efficiency was not at an all-time high.
Do you remember, what are the percentages on that? Is it 0.75?
I believe it's body weight bench press.
Yep.
0.75 clean and 1.5 deadlift.
Okay. The old body weight bench is going to get your attention after a while.
Sure does. It sure does.
After everything else. That's a great one. That's a classic. It's beautiful. And probably the only thing which is a limiting factor every now and then with programming it for some people is just having 3 barbells, to be able to do that. But if you've got it, it's just something you have to tick off the list.
Yep.
Okay. What's a good time for that? Do you know off the top of your head?
I've seen people that have ground that out in 10 minutes or less,
well under really?
sub 10. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
It was actually a regionals workout the last year that regionals happened in 2018. I believe there was a version of that with fixed weights, and some of the times that came through there were absolutely crazy.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you started off with a named workout. I'm going to start off with a named workout. It's not flashy, okay? My first one out of the gate is Helen.
Oh.
I think Helen is absolutely a work of art. It's
could not agree more.
For anyone who's unfamiliar with it, 3 rounds for time, an innocent 400-meter run, 21 kettlebell swings, and 12 pull-ups. Not with the heavy bell. It's the 53 for the men, 35 for the women. Not chest to bar pull-ups. It's kipping chin over bar pull-ups. It's just sets of 12. It's just 3 rounds. I think this is so beautiful because a lot of the workouts that I love, if they do have a commonality, it's that they're potentially a trap for people to fall into. And Helen is one of those that I think it looks so innocent and unassuming, but you're not going to do well without cardiorespiratory endurance, stamina. It's a nice moderate time domain. You got a powerful hip drive on that kettlebell and the pull-ups as well. There's a lot of grip. It seems like you can never catch your breath. There is, kettlebell does fall into the whole weightlifting category of CrossFit programming. So you've got weightlifting, monostructural, and gymnastics. And what I love about Helen also is there's a fair number of people that after a bit of CrossFit or after repeated exposure to it, they can do it unbroken. They can swing the kettlebell 21 times and do those sets of 12 every time. Then, now we're getting somewhere, boss. Now Helen becomes beautiful because you're kind of set at a pace. It takes what it takes to swing the bell and do the pull-ups. So now your only opportunity to get a faster time on Helen is to do what no CrossFitter wants to do. You have to run like the devil is chasing you. And now when you do that, suddenly the kettlebell swing seems so much worse. And 12 pull-ups, you can't believe how hard 12 little pull-ups are and what happened on the next run. I think Helen is an absolute masterpiece, and I'm so glad that it was programmed when it was, because I feel like these days somebody would have to make it 5 rounds with the heavy bell and chest to bar pull-ups, and not that it's wrong, but it would just be different. Helen is just gorgeous. That's what I'm going to lead off with.
I had to battle back and forth. Helen was in my number 1 spot too. And the only reason that Linda beat it out was because I have such nostalgia for doing that workout and such a personal tie to it. I think in terms of, better, quote unquote, it is a better workout than Linda for the reasons that you stated. It is such a great balance of everything. And truly, it's exactly what you just said. If you want to do well on that workout, you have to do the thing that you don't want to do, which is push the pace on that run. And I love it. I don't love doing it.
Right.
But I love that workout. And I'm so glad that you had it in there. I had a hunch that it was going to be close to the top for you too.
It's near and dear to my heart. And you don't need a lot of gear, place to run, a pull-up bar, and a bell, and you can get it done. So
I'll tell you, I've done a push-up Helen many times, and I just matched the push-ups to the swings. So 400, 21, 21. And it is plenty good. just as good as the old pull-up version. In my opinion.
That's where I'm starting with. Okay, what's your next one?
Okay, so Helen was in my number 2 slot, but I know I like to speak broadly, and so I couldn't land on a single one, and so I kind of have a category for my second spot.
Okay.
Since you took Helen, I'll take it off the board, but it was in the mix there. That category is a trio of Helen, Jackie, and Nancy. And I feel like all of them
Nancy.
kind of represent exactly that sweet spot that you were talking about, where nothing about any of those workouts is too aggressive. You look at the elements individually and you think, what's a 400 meter run? What's 1,000 meters on the row followed by some other stuff? What's thrusters with the open barbell? No big deal.
Yes.
And that, I think, is the beauty of these workouts. And it really highlights this idea that you don't have to challenge the extremes of the individual element to have an effective workout. In fact, in many cases, it's to your detriment to try to chase it that way. You know, you load that thruster up to 185. Well, of course, it's going to be quote unquote hard.
Right.
But is the effect anywhere close to what you're going to have with that nonstop, have to push the pace type of effort where Jackie sits? So I love that workout. And I was actually reminded just this morning, I've got a new CrossFitter in my garage gym. He's a guy that I've known kind of peripherally for a while. We happen to move to the same town. Yeah, he's trying to get back into shape. He hasn't been super active for a while. So he's been coming over to the garage and I've been helping him out. And it's been great. And we did an effort today that was very similar to like a Jackie style effort. And at the end, he remarked, he said, oh man, you know, like once I'm fit, I'll be able to do that in half my time and it's going to be no big deal. And I stopped him and I said, hey, you might be able to do that in half the time, but make no mistake, everybody has a threshold and everybody in their training will be approaching that threshold if they're doing it right. And when they get to the end, they're going to look exactly like you do now if they're doing it right. So yeah, you're going to get fitter and yeah, you're going to get faster, but no, the outcome is not going to change significantly based on how you're feeling.
You may be able to do it in half the time, but it will be a huge deal.
Exactly.
Because it's going to sting like no other. Yep, no less effort. Okay, so is that your second? That's that encapsulation there?
Yeah, and well, I didn't touch much on Nancy, but
Nancy's beautiful.
I just think the combination of having to push the pace on the run, the light, moderate weight on the overhead squats that you know you can do, you know, if you're pretty decent at that movement, which I am, you know that those reps, 15 is possible. And again, it cheats you into hanging on longer than you want to. And I also really like this idea of a high heart rate and then having to be precise with your position. So I come in, I'm huffing and puffing, my heart's racing, and I have to be accurate on the overhead squat. I love that kind of work. I think that's really cool and something that is such a radical departure from other modes of training where they say, oh, you're tired, you shouldn't be technical. Whereas CrossFit embraces the opposite and says, no, when you're tired is when you should demand yourself to be technical.
Amen to that. It's already like my favorite episode. I love talking about these workouts. This is fantastic. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely yes. And I will say in my honorable mentions, I had Jackie.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Oh, Jackie.
I knew there was going to be some overlap.
Oh, Jackie's just a fire. Just a fire. That empty barbell, right? It's quote unquote so light. Oh, is it really?
No biggie.
Oh, it's so nasty. Okay. All right. Here's my second one. Again, not flashy. Cindy.
I had that one too.
I absolutely adore Cindy. If anyone's unfamiliar with it, it's AMRAP, 20-minute AMRAP, as many rounds and reps as possible in 20 minutes. 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. This is, again, it's about as deceptive as they come. I bet this is a trap that more people have walked into upon first exposure to CrossFit, like a 10-minute Cindy or a 20-minute Cindy, especially.
Absolutely.
Like my former community, like a military community where you're doing push-ups and pull-ups all day long. Maybe not the air squats, but the push-ups and pull-ups, they just seem laughable. And, you know, you go long all the time, so 20 minutes seems like it should be the blink of an eye. And all of a sudden, like 7 minutes into Cindy, you just don't know what's happening to your legs. They're jelly. You can't breathe. Why are the push-ups all of a sudden so hard? Why am I breaking up sets of 10 push-ups? What happened to my beloved push-ups? It seems like nothing should be too hard, and then it all becomes profoundly difficult. And the long time domain, not a barbell in sight. So that's always good for a trap because somebody thinks, well, there's no heavy loading, so I'm just gonna blow through this. It's fantastic, and the reps add up so quickly, right? Like a beautifully designed AMRAP is not particularly challenging in round 1 or 2. It's as the accumulation occurs and time goes on, all of a sudden it catches up with you, and 10 rounds in, you knocked out 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups and 150 air squats, let alone if you're doing 15 or 20 rounds or something like that.
Yep.
And you mentioned that workouts can go in so many different directions. Well, I think Cindy is a great example of a workout that you can take anywhere. It's like a blank canvas. You can do it as is for the rest of your life. And modifying it wouldn't be necessary, but I don't know, if you wanted to make the push-ups hand release, go ahead. I think they're hard enough as they are. If you want to make the pull-ups chest bar, go ahead. Or you can go the other way. Don't make it 5, 10, 15. Make it 3, 6, 9 and reduce the time domain. And then it's nice for the beginner. Ring rows instead of pull-ups. Knee push-ups or elevated push-ups instead of regular. I mean, you've got variance and scalability through the roof with Cindy. And then there's so many fun variations on a Cindy platform that you can do where it's like a round of Cindy, one heavy power clean, and just you do that for 20 minutes, and you get that punch of the barbell. I mean, I think Cindy, again, is an absolute work of art, quite frankly.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. Sorry. I did a tough workout this morning. I've got a little bit of the old Fran lung. But yes, Cindy was also on my list, and I think what you said at the end there about it being so accessible to a wide range of athletes, I love that. The last time I did Cindy wasn't too long ago, actually. It was a few weeks ago at the affiliate here. And it was so cool to look around and see, we had the hotshot 20-something-year-old who was really going for it and just digging in. And then you look on the other side of the gym and you've got the 57-year-old woman who's had a knee surgery a couple months ago and is feeling, fresh enough and healthy enough to start getting back into the game. She's got a version that's right for her and everything in the middle. And I just love that. It's such a great platform, like you said. I can't be more emphatic about Cindy. And it's one of the ones that anytime I feel I've been falling off a little bit or I haven't been able to get to the garage or to the gym, and I'm starting to feel like I just need to go out and get a good effort in, that's the go-to. I will go into the garage, I will just start the timer, warm up for a few minutes, and then just hit it. And it's always the right choice.
Yes, and it's one of those ones we've talked about so many things now with so many podcasts, but the getting strong just doesn't include a barbell. I mean, the upper body pull paired with an upper body push, paired with sets of 15 of you're squatting just your own weight. You're not getting weaker from doing Cindy. You may not be improving your 1 rep max, so to speak, but strength and usable, worthwhile, real world, planet Earth, breathing heavy, move your body strength comes in various shapes and sizes. And Cindy delivers on that and delivers on it really, really well.
Oh, man. Absolutely.
Okay, back to you. I've stolen a couple of yours here.
Okay, so my third one, I feel like this is certainly a favorite, but I felt like I was starting to get into this kind of shorter, sub 10-minute box. So I wanted to extend out from that, and I started thinking, okay, what were some workouts that I really liked that are longer? And there were two that kind of wrestled back and forth. One of them was the Filthy 50. So that was kind of a runner-up. And I like that workout so much just because it is such a great eye-opener on big sets and how difficult that is and how most people think of themselves as fit until they're tasked with something outside of that, let's say 20 and above rep range. It's pretty foreign to you the first time you're confronted with that. And it becomes immediately apparent where your weaknesses are if you're not used to training with high reps like that. At least it was for me the first dozen times I did that workout.
Right.
You get halfway through it and you can't believe, oh my goodness, I have to do 50 burpees when? I have to do 50 wall ball when? It's terrible, but great. So that was my runner-up for third place.
Okay.
My true third place was a classic, the old Fight Gone Bad.
I was looking that over this morning. Yeah.
I just love it. I'm a big fan of the intervals. I'm a big fan of having to face the bell on that third round, or if you're feeling froggy, doing the fourth and fifth rounds. I love that it gives you the opportunity to go hard, rest up a little bit, and then go hard again. I mean, I think that's such the beauty of interval training. The movement selection itself, every single one of them is a big, long movement, and it's just great. I've got great memories of doing that workout, and I think it just fits together so well.
And it just, correct me if I'm wrong, just an innocent 75-pound barbell, right?
Exactly, yep. 75 pounds for the push press, 75 pounds for the sumo deadlift high pull.
That's just such a burner too. And it's gorgeous. And here's, I don't want to get off on a tangent, right? But here is, correct me if you think that I'm wrong, but I feel like that's something that if, let's say, I hate to use the phrase back in the day, but I'm going to. Back in the day, like over 10 years ago, let's say, that if you got into CrossFit, there's a good chance that if you started doing CrossFit and I talked to you 1 year later, I said, hey, have you done Fight Gone Bad? You'd most certainly say yes. And these days, I almost feel like that year might go by and somebody may not even have heard of it, which is a bit of a shame. You know, there's so much, I think some of those workouts get overlooked these days, again, because of the light loading, because of some of these things. And I think overlooking them is it's a shame for just being a history buff, but it's also a shame because the stimulus is effective and gorgeous, and it delivers the goods. So if you are listening to this and you haven't had the pleasure of doing the little dance with Fight Gone Bad, I really think that you should.
Oh, couldn't agree more. Yep. Okay, so what's your third on the list here?
Okay, and then I want to hear a couple of your honorable mentions.
Excuse me. Yeah, I've got a few.
Okay. Death by thruster. What do you?
Terrible.
Death by thruster with either a 115-pound barbell for the men, 75 for the women, or acceptable is a pair of 50-pound dumbbells for the men, 35-pound dumbbells. I'll accept either answer. If anyone is unfamiliar with the death by protocol, I'll explain it to you. First of all, if you're going to do a workout and in the title it has death, you know you're in for a good time. The death by protocol is you start the clock and you have to do a prescribed amount of work in each minute, and you cannot advance and like get ahead and go to the next minute. So you start the clock for thrusters anyway. In minute number 1, you do 1 thruster. Let's say it takes you 3 seconds. In minute number 2, you have to do 2 thrusters. Well, in minute number 1, you do the 1 thruster. You can't just then do the 2 thrusters. You have to rest the 57 seconds. When minute 2 happens, you do 2 thrusters. It takes you 6 seconds. You got to rest 54, and so on and so forth. So you go as far as you can performing the prescribed work in the appropriate minute until you fail to achieve the prescribed work in the appropriate minute. So if you think about how it goes, it's easy until it's not, because your work continues to increase, your recovery time, your rest continues to decrease, and at some point in time, those two worlds collide. And you don't get to choose the pace. When that minute rolls around, you got to go. And so it forces you to act. No need to be unbroken. I should say that as long as you get the amount of work done in the appropriate minute, you're good to go. We've got, with the death by thruster, especially at that loading, which is a terrible loading, you've got to be strong below parallel with that squat, midline, powerful hip opening, core to extremity movement, and an upper body press that's driven by the lower body. You got a fast cycle time. You got a big range of motion. And if you're cycling them in a nice fluid sequence, you've got that coordination, accuracy, agility, and balance. You need lungs. You got to be strong. You got to have some mental grit, aka you've got to be fit. And so, death by thruster, absolutely, absolutely adore it.
That I don't get that at all. You're wrong. That has to be. This has to be a mistake. I don't get it. That's a brutal workout. It reminds me of the old saying, how did you go bankrupt? And the answer is slowly and then all at once.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing with that workout.
And you can do that death by protocol, so everybody knows, with anything you want. I did it with calories on the Echo bike yesterday. You can do it with your favorite 10-meter shuttle sprints. I mean, you can do it with, 135 clean and jerks, burpees, the whole 9 yards. But the thruster, I would be remiss if I didn't include something that had a thruster. I mean, talk about a movement that just requires so much capacity in just one movement. So I'm going to end with death by thruster.
Man, well, that's a strong choice. Should we do a couple of runners up here?
Let's do a couple runners up, yeah.
Okay. My honorable mention that has to be in the mix. And frankly, if you were to ask me a different day and a different time what your favorite workout of all time was, this one might be number one. This is one that's always kind of oscillating in my brain as top of the list. And that is the Chief.
Oh, I have that on my list for honorable mentions. Yes.
Yeah. Super simple. Again, you've got an interval. You've got a barbell that's not particularly heavy. 135. You've got push-ups and you got air squats. The reps are small. And the work time is not that long, so you can really, really push, and then you get a breather, and you just pick it up and go again. I have done the Chief more times than maybe any other workout, and I love it every single time. It's just so fun to attack it. It's everything about it is just so well balanced, in my opinion. That's got to be in the mix for me. And like I said, depending on when you ask me, that might take the number one spot, depending on my mood that day.
I don't think anybody would argue with you if it took the number one spot there. For all the things that you just said, and it has my admiration for everything that you just said, and it also ticks that beautiful box that I like of, it's a trap. Those reps are small, 3, 6, 9. This shouldn't be a problem, but that's the whole problem. It allows you to keep moving, and 3 minutes doesn't seem like it's that long, but it's plenty to put yourself in the hurt locker, and you can just recover enough in that 1 minute to hit it again. It's a fantastic choice. Great choice. Okay. These are in no particular order, like I said. So yes, the Chief was on my list. Jackie was on my list that you already mentioned. I've got to go with Elizabeth. And I've got to go with squat clean Elizabeth. Power clean Elizabeth is not a thing in my world, okay? Squat, I need to have the barbell received below parallel. Now we have something going on. Power clean Elizabeth is a fun workout. Squat clean Elizabeth is not a fun workout.
That first set of 21 squat cleans is no joke.
For all
that's
the things,
a hole to climb out of.
Strong, and all of a sudden, in the world of squat cleans or full cleans, 135 doesn't seem that bad, but now you do them in a 21-15-9 rep scheme with the ring dip, and all of a sudden your strength just disappears because you're hyperventilating and you're staring at the barbell. So if you still have the capacity to move that barbell at a steady pace while your heart's doing what it's doing, you're a beast. And then talk about a really cool upper body push movement that doesn't get a lot of fanfare. The ring dip, I think, is an unsung hero for an upper body press. Pecs, shoulders, chest, traps, lats, this strength to keep the rings tight as they want to drift away from you. I think, Elizabeth, it's on my list. I think it's gorgeous.
That's a good choice. I will see your Elizabeth, and I'll give you another runner-up. And this was actually from the 2012 games, and it was a workout that I had pitched slightly differently, but it ended up being pretty close to what I wanted out of it. But it was really simple. It was rope climb on one side, 20-foot rope climb. And then I believe it was a 20-yard sled push after that, 5 rounds.
Oh,
5 rounds, rope climb. And you know what? Now that I think about it, it might have been a couple of rope climbs, and I can't believe I'm blanking on that. That's terrible of me. But
just the pairing of a rope climb and a sled push is beautiful.
But that's exactly the point, is that, again, you have this kind of technical movement that you can do. You can always do a rope climb, but you have to have the confidence to do it. You have to have the skill to do it, and you have to have those things under an increasingly heavy demand from your respiratory system, and your legs are tired, and that's what you need to stand up on those rope poles, and it just compounds so nicely. It's one of my favorite combos ever.
I'll try to keep these quick because I could make the show another 30 minutes. I got 2 or 3 more I want to touch on. This one, again, I think it's such a beautiful trap. I don't think anybody sees it until you really do it. SQT.
Oh, that's a terrible word. That's digging back a little ways too. I hadn't even thought about that workout in years.
So if anyone's familiar with it, all you need is a 95-pound barbell for the men, 65 for women. Then you're going to mark out 50 meters, 50 meters. And the workout is 3 rounds for time of 10 ground overhead. Now, most people will do a power snatch, so let's just say it's power snatch. 3 rounds for time of 10 power snatch and a 200-meter shuttle run. So down and back, down and back. That's it. I mean, 10 power snatch with 95, 65, no one gives that a second thought. They probably consider that rest, right? And the 200-meter run, we're so used to doing 400s. Well, that shouldn't be difficult at all. And it's only 3 rounds. SQT is a trap almost like no other. That is a burner.
And, you know, if you go back in the archives on CrossFit.com and you can see, I think it was Pat Barber, a young Pat Barber. He's like 20 at the time, maybe not even. And this old grainy video of him doing it at the original CrossFit gym in Santa Cruz, the first time that workout was ever created. And he, at the time, was playing volleyball at a high level. He's a competitive player, you know, he's a really good athlete. And he fell right into that trap, and you can see him just implode. I'll never forget that video. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out.
There's another great video of Spiel doing that at USD during a seminar. And in like round 2 or 3 course, I mean, that talk about a Spiel, he's amazing, but like a Spiel wheelhouse, because that's just like suffering and moderate. I mean, he can just crush that. He went so hard that somewhere in round 2 or 3, it's on video, he's doing the runs, but he can't even like control the stability of his head. His head's like bobbing off of it like his traps, and like he can't even keep his head up straight. He's in so much agony. Again, and you would never see that coming. So, all right, we've beat that. SQT, fantastic. Do you have another honorable one?
You know, I could go on and on and on, but so at the risk of that, I think I'm going to just put out there that I really like the rep scheme of 10 down to 1 with 2 or 3 elements. I know that was my first pick with Linda, but I just want to put it out there that I think that kind of descending work is so sneaky, because in your mind, you can tell yourself, I just did the hard set. I already know I did the hard set.
Yep.
I should be able to do this one. And you goad yourself into that pace that is a little bit unsustainable, and it's just great. So I'm just going to use that as my last kind of blanket coverage, because I mean, I really could go on.
I will
forever.
I will just say 2 names of workouts. I won't say what they are, and I won't discuss them. So if you're a fan, you can go dig on them. But my last 2 that I would say is Nasty Girls and Nate. And that's
good choice.
And that's that for multiple reasons. But
Nate's
was a
another
blast.
One. Yeah, absolutely. Nate, I'll just touch on that real quick. That's another one like Cindy that I keep in the back pocket for when I'm like, okay, I need to get serious about my training again. I haven't really been putting in a lot of effort. Let's get warmed up and let's hit Nate hard, because I always feel like I can get a good effort out of that one. And just a great mix of movements too. So, man, that's a good one.
And that will let you know if you've been biasing your training one way or another. Because Nate's fantastic. So this was fun, little lighthearted one. This was great. Again, we could have gone on a much longer time on this. And maybe we'll have to circle back and somehow do a riff off of this, but a couple months from now, so we give it some time to breathe or see what's happening with the community out there. Well, as always, this was not our idea. This was your idea. This was the community's idea. So we thank you for it. And obviously, we read the comments, so you now know what Boz and I love for some of our favorite workouts, but we want to know, what are some of your favorites and why? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you have something wildly different on your list? Post it in the comments under this episode on the btwb YouTube channel. We read those. We appreciate the support. It helps drive future content, and we'll keep the shows coming. So for Adrian Bosman, I'm Pat Sherwood, and we will see you next time.